Welcome to Coffee and Cyber Security with Cyberpilot. We've been on a winter break. We've been busy with other things, but now we're back and we have some good episodes lined up. Today, the title is What is Good Awareness Training? And to talk about that, I've been joined by Tue Saltofte Lund. So welcome to you.
Thank you.
You work here at Cyberpilot. You are a senior digital learning specialist.
Yes, I am.
And that means you've created a bunch of security awareness training courses throughout the years. So you really, you're the perfect person to ask what works, what doesn't work when it comes to courses.
I hope so.
Hope so.
Yeah.
So welcome to you. And today we're just going to dive into why you need security awareness training, what makes it good, what makes it bad, and hopefully also give some good tips to all of you out there if you want to create your own courses on what you should consider when you make courses. But maybe we should start from the basics and just say, why do you even need security awareness training?
Yeah. I would say as an organization, as a workplace, you need cybersecurity awareness training because one of the big factors in cybersecurity is the human factor, because, well, a long time ago, the cyber criminals and the hackers, they have learned that if you can't break through the technical defenses, well, maybe you can trick someone to letting the digital door open. So everyone could be a potential target of that at an organization, because they are looking for the weakest link. So everyone needs to be aware that these risks exist, that our behaviors, our habits matter a lot for the collective security, because that's everything from being aware of scams and not getting tricked to maintaining good habits in the day-to-day, like keeping your systems updated and choosing proper passwords and such.
Yeah, I think the statistic is still that 8 out of 10 security breaches actually starts with somebody making a mistake.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come from a technical hack. It comes from a person clicking a phishing link or sending data to wrong persons or something like that.
Yeah.
And I really think it shows the importance of having some kind of awareness in your company.
Absolutely.
But then I think the next question would be, what is it? What is awareness, and how to make training for it?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because I think there's also something about this term, awareness training. Maybe at this point, we could have a better term for it, because it suggests raising awareness that these threats exist. That's certainly part of it. But I think people also, the way we see awareness training today, people also need more. They also need knowledge, they need skill, they need practice, because these threats are getting more and more complex. So I would say awareness training these days, it's raising awareness, but it's also more than that. It's also training, which I guess is the other part of the term.
Yeah, but I guess that's been a discussion throughout the years. Like,
yeah,
is it actually educating, getting a lot of knowledge,
absolutely,
or is it more creating awareness and not needing
exactly
the in-depth?
And certainly, no matter what, a huge component is just keeping these issues top of mind, keeping people aware and alert. I think maybe even alert would be the better term, because I think at this point we're all aware that online scams exist, but will we catch it when they actually come for us?
Yeah. So it's in the moment you need to be alert. It's not the awareness that's
exactly. So I think there's been all kinds of other terms suggested for it, but ultimately I think we're kind of stuck with this because this is the one people know, and it's quite catchy. But that was just to say that it can be a little more complex than it maybe sounds.
Yeah. But I think that's a quick intro.
Yeah.
So maybe you sit out there in a company, you know why it's important, you know you got to do it, you have to create something, but it can be a complex or maybe a daunting task to figure out what is a good awareness training course then. How do we actually train our employees? And you definitely made some learnings about that throughout the years. You have gotten a lot of feedback on all your courses. So maybe you can tell a little bit about what is the approach we use in Cyberpilot that people could learn from.
Yeah, because I think in the very simplest form, awareness training is just, for example, the IT manager writing out an email when there's a thread going around. But we try to add on a little more than that. We try to, again, help people understand these terms and how to deal with them. I think one of our key principles is to make it practical and applicable to daily life. That sometimes means, even though I say we need to explain these terms and have people understand them, it means not too much theory, not too many definitions. There are people out there who like that. Certainly a lot of IT professionals should understand these terms, but a lot of everyone else, they just want to get on with their work and they just want to focus on what do I need to do then.
Yeah.
So for example, when we create a course about multi-factor authentication, well, it could be tempting to write up a definition and what fits and what doesn't. But actually, we sometimes just take the approach of saying multi-factor authentication is things such as, give a few examples, but then focus on the important thing for you, the reader, is what you need to do about it. Well, you need to know that it's important, and you need to take steps to turn it on potentially on certain services. So that is focusing in on their day-to-day life and focusing in on their part in this, because they don't necessarily need the deep theoretical understanding, but they certainly need to remember day-to-day habits and behavior.
Yeah, so it's what I'm hearing you say is also that it's about cutting into what's important for them.
Yeah.
So maybe why it's important to have multi-factor is important because it can make it easier to remember.
Yes.
And then what to do.
It can. Also because some of these behaviors can require extra effort. I mean, I work with this every day and I know the importance of multi-factor, but I also get annoyed every time I have to log into our production platform and dig out my phone, but I do it because I know it's important. So that is part of it too, motivation and the bigger picture.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess maybe that also goes into actually the topics you choose to create courses about.
Yes.
Maybe is that the same approach, figuring out what is actually practical for them to know and where they need to do something?
It absolutely is. For example, well, do we want to release a course on, I don't know, malware as a topic? Well, we don't want to make one that's too theoretical about, again, what are the different, from the technical perspective, the different types of malware. But we want to focus in on the interface where the ordinary employee meets malware. Yeah. So that will mean, okay, we make courses about phishing emails, make courses about shady websites. We maybe make a course about not how you're not able to fully rely on antivirus. We might make a course about recognizing if you already have a virus, for example. But that is focusing in on the stuff where each employee meets it.
Yeah, so they don't need to know how malware actually works.
Exactly. They might not need to know the difference between a virus, a worm, or a Trojan, or whatever, but they need to know there's bad stuff out there.
Yeah.
Here's how you could catch it. So, yeah.
Yes, it makes sense. And I guess it also, these tips about making it practical goes into whatever kind of course they're creating, because it could be just a PDF file or
yes,
a big SCORM file, and there's many ways of doing courses.
Yeah.
But I guess it applies to all of them.
Yeah, there's this catchphrase in the corporate world of, could this meeting have been an email? Sometimes you've got to ask yourself that about a course. Could this course have been an email? But I think a lot of the time we are able to add more value by making it more than just an email. We use animation and illustrations to help illustrate our point. We use storytelling to translate it into cases that can be more relatable. And we put a lot of effort into structuring our communication in the right order. Okay, you got to know this first to understand this, to understand what you need to do. Yeah,
that makes sense. And I guess that's up to you out there to figure out what is the right approach for you. How many resources do you have? Because of course, this is something we do for a living, so we can also put more time into it.
Absolutely.
But it still applies all the tips.
Yes, but even for us, we are asking ourselves the questions. What is the minimum I need to do here? Not because we are lazy or not because we are stingy, but simply because our target group, they have a lot of other stuff to do. So short and sweet course is often better than a long involved thing. And that can be the approach you take out there as well. It can be, yes, what is the minimum that can help people along here? And maybe then you can improve on it later.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense because people got work to do.
Exactly.
They're not there to just learn about a lot of technical and cybersecurity stuff. They actually got other work to do. So the shorter you can do it, the better.
That's a huge part of how we approach it, respecting people's time, and that's both on a personal level, but also on the big corporate level. Someone might be sitting there doing the math, like, okay, if all employees have to spend an hour taking this course, what does that do for productivity? But also simply to keep people's attention.
Yeah, but sometimes it's also more difficult to actually make short courses. I think there's a quote, I can't remember it exactly, but in copywriting that said, if I had more time, I would write a shorter letter.
Yes.
So it's not easy to do.
Absolutely.
Let's say that somebody sits out there and they're considering to create courses themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Do you then have some good tips on how they should approach it besides making it practical?
Yeah. I think let me start somewhere else. If you are, for example, an IT professional, if you deal with cybersecurity every day, there's a pitfall you could fall into, which is assuming everyone knows a lot of the same terms you do, and assuming they know a lot more than they might do. Because again, a lot of people simply aren't interested in the technicalities. So that can be a risk if you're too into the subject yourself, you're a bit of an IT nerd perhaps, that you end up explaining it in a way that gets too inside, gets too technical. So if you are that kind of IT professional, think about your target audience, think about how they deal with it. I mean, depending on what kind of workplace you have, a lot of people might not even be 100% sure about words like internet browser or malware, for example. They might need to be explained or simply talked around. Instead of malware, maybe you can say malicious software or computer viruses or something like that. So you can do that yourself. Potentially, you could also ally with someone who is a communicator by trade, someone who's professional in communication. I'm not a cybersecurity professional by training. I'm more of a communicator who just also happens to be a bit of a nerd about a lot of computer stuff. So a lot of my process is talking to the experts and then trying to translate what they're saying into the user's language, and then have the experts fact check it again after to make sure I don't lose anything important. But always trying to weigh that. You have to lose some nuance to simplify sometimes. But think about talking your user's language. I think it's a huge part of it.
Yeah, and you could do that, as you say, by teaming up with someone who's really good at communicating. Yeah. But you could also maybe just do it by testing it on a few employees first, seeing, do you understand this?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can go at it very methodically, but yeah, testing is a very useful tool, and testing can be as simple as just putting it in front of them and seeing if they can complete it without having any questions or doubts as you go.
Yeah, makes sense. Are there anything else people should consider than the whole communication part and not taking knowledge for granted, as you often do when you're an expert in something?
Yeah, again, ask your target audience is a big one. But apart from that, I think if you are not a communicator by trade, I think a good kind of a rule of thumb I like to apply to how to present information in the right order is I like to compare it to giving people directions to find their way around a city. If you can, give them like an aerial photo before you start listing off street names. Because you know, if you say, and then you turn left by this road and right by this road and left by this road, you lose them by like 4 roads in. But it can help a lot if you can give them that, like I say, aerial photography. Oh, I'm going from this part of town to this part of town. And then you have that as kind of a structure to tie all the individual pieces of information up on. So that was a little metaphorical, but to translate it over to cybersecurity and to awareness training, you can always in the beginning say, well, this course is about, and it's important because, and you need to deal with it in these situations. And it can be okay to start talking sometimes about like two-factor authentication is super important. It's a little feature you can turn on that helps your security a lot. And maybe then there's more details you need, but those details are more relatable to the end user if they've had that big picture first.
Yes. So give them the context that makes
Absolutely.
it more motivating and also easier to understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would be my rough crash course in good communication structuring.
Yes. And then I think another part we've been talking about before this episode was also that, of course, you're really focusing on the end user here.
Yes.
The people who are receiving the courses, making it into a language that they understand, also making it into something that they can use in their everyday life. But if you are a company with X amount of people, it will be really difficult to make everybody like it.
Yes.
And I guess that's something you need to be aware of if you're doing security courses out there, that it's not your job to make everybody love your course.
No. But it helps, again, if you respect people's time and if you respect their point of view, you will always have detractors. And again, if you simplify too much, you will have some of the nerds, essentially, who might feel like they're being talked down to. So it can be really hard to please everyone. But yeah, as long as you approach it with respect and include the people, the human element in your considerations, that goes a long way, I think. Because and if they understand the importance of participating in the awareness program, they might also put up with some stuff that is not exactly what they were looking for at that point.
Yes. Yeah, so actually it all kind of goes back to the same tips in the end. Like, explain why something is important to do, because then they're more motivated, or at least understands why they should do it, even if they don't think it's that cool. Make it practical. Make it about the everyday life.
Yes.
And communicate in the language that they understand. Drop all the technical parts they don't need to know. Go for the things that actually matters in their everyday life. Was that a fair summary of it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think if you approach it like that, I was about to say then you can't go wrong. But of course, if there's one thing we've learned, it is that you will make missteps, and then the important thing is just to keep your finger on the pulse and correct them as you go, and evaluate and learn.
Perfect. Maybe I think that's a good place to end it today.
All right.
And thank you for coming to.
It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun to get to share a little of the stuff I worry about.
Yeah, and I hope it was also fun for all of you listening. Next time, I think we will keep talking about awareness training, but then we will talk a little bit about how to implement it on an organizational level instead of going into the courses in a deep dive. So hope you'll join us again next time.